Welcome to Let's Talk Health. I'm Dr. Dan Pavlik Jr. As always, we are sponsored by the Access Health and Wellness Association. Today we're coming to you virtually. So normally we have an in-studio guest. Today we have a virtual guest for the first time. So everybody viewing this show is in luck for a great episode here. We have got a chiropractor, Dr. Chad Vogelgesang from Ohio. Welcome, Dr. Chad, to the show. And
thank you so much for having me.
Appreciate you taking your time out of your schedule to be with us today. So, Dr. Chad, tell us a little bit about yourself. What got you into becoming a chiropractor, and how many years have you been doing it up to this point? So
I'm in my 14th year of practice up here in Canton, Ohio. I'm originally from Stark County. Actually, what got me into chiropractic was I was a pharmaceutical drug rep and not having a very good time doing that. But I ended up injuring my back and went to a chiropractor. My primary care physician wanted to give me prescriptions and do exploratory surgery on my lower back, which I didn't think was a great idea when I was about 33 years old. Ended up going to a chiropractor. A month later, I was back training for a marathon, felt better than I'd probably felt in 10 or 12 years, was moving better, and I decided to get out of the pharmaceutical business and get into the wellness business. So that's what took me to New York Chiropractic College in upstate New York. And then I bought a practice here and then opened up my own practice in Stark County, Ohio in 2011. God, was it 2011 already?
Yeah.
So this is what I do now. I'm much happier than being a pharmaceutical rep at this point.
Well, that's interesting, man. It's because with me, I basically grew up. My dad was a chiropractor, and I knew I just always wanted to get into that. So it's always good to hear stories like that, because similar to my father, my dad did a lot of different things. He was a teacher, he's a police officer, ended up hurting his back really bad. And one of the local chiropractors here in Orlando, that's been long retired, he took good care of my dad, and that's what motivated him to go to Palmer Chiropractic College up in Iowa. So it's cool to hear a similar story of that nature. Now, how did you hurt your back? Like, what were you doing?
Well, I mean,
was it I
didn't have a lot of experience doing carpentry work, but I tried to strip out my bathroom, and I was using a crowbar and a hammer, and I ended up 3 days on my stomach. Had to slither down the stairs like the Grinch in the Christmas Story. A couple buddies had to deliver a couple pizzas to me so I didn't starve for 2 days, and ended up getting into a chiropractor. It happened on a Friday night. Couldn't get into somebody until Monday morning, and so that was it was the relief I felt that following week that kind of started to sell me on it. Now, my neighbor growing up was a chiropractor, so I'd always had chiropractic treatments when I was younger. I was a tennis player in junior high and high school and college, so and I had a little bit of experience with chiropractic as an adolescent, but
so
I never really thought about it.
When you were that age, you kind of had more maintenance care when you were a tennis player?
I think probably episodic, like just whenever you felt a twinge or something, or whenever you kind of felt like I needed it. Probably didn't realize how important maintenance care was until later on in life, or until I probably became a chiropractor actually.
So you're still a tennis player currently, correct?
I do.
Yeah.
Play in some USTA leagues. I still try to play at a fairly high level, but as the age increases, Doc, the level goes down a little bit.
Yeah. And you're a runner. I know you're an avid runner. How long have you been running? Has that also been a lifelong thing?
Well, I probably ran some road races when I was younger. I ran a marathon when I was actually, to get the chiropractor that took care of that previous episode, got me back training, and I ran a marathon in 2004. which was, I mean, obviously one of those bucket list things that you want to get done earlier than later. And now we limit ourselves to half marathons because we can always feel like, we can drink coffee afterwards and not just go, fall asleep for 3 days.
Yeah.
But no, run regularly 3 to 4 times a week with a couple buddies, and just completed a half marathon this last Sunday in Columbus, which was the 5th time I've run that one. And I think with running, for me especially, it's, health wise, it keeps me moving, but I think just headspace wise, and that's my time to, go hit some long runs, and enjoy moving. I think the energy around running half marathons is fantastic. So it's just one of those things that I've grown to really like the last 20 years or so.
So everybody out there that's watching, that's a runner, what are some of the things that you have to do to take care of yourself to maintain your running abilities like that?
I think, I've always been a big gait guy. So a lot of the continuing education that I've done is on gait, making sure that you're running properly, making sure that you have, proper shoes, proper gait. I really love the compression sleeves for recovery, which is important. But I would say probably most importantly, foam roller. I know Steve and I have done a bunch of videos on foam rolling and the importance of foam rolling. But stretching is obviously key. Of course, we could all stretch more than we do, but not overexerting yourself. I mean, keep it in terms of what your goals are going to be with running. And it doesn't matter if you run 5Ks, 10Ks, half marathons, just keeping in mind, like, what you're doing it for. I mean, and enjoying it. I mean, if it's, some people, I mean, I have friends who just like, if I'm running, somebody's chasing me. But, there's a lot of people who, when they run, it gives them a chance to get out of what they do on a day-to-day basis. They can, relax their mind, think about something else, just get away from everything. And I think that's, it's a good headspace to be in, really.
So let's talk about the importance as a runner and the runners that you treat. Let's talk about the importance of the balance of the pelvis. You talked about gait and that type of stuff, but leg length, leg length's a big thing in chiropractic care. And a lot of people have questions about it that aren't familiar necessarily with chiropractic care. But when you think of people that are running and pounding every day, trying to keep that pelvis balanced, which ultimately affects the leg length, is so important. Is that one of the big things that you're paying attention to? And not only your regular patient population, but especially your runners?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think that the most important thing is, when you're evaluating a runner, when you're evaluating, their gait, their stride, are they balanced? Do they have, too much quad, too much hamstring? Are they, pronating, making sure they're in the proper running shoes, obviously is a huge thing. But pelvic balance is huge. I mean, obviously, if your pelvis is twisted, if if they're experiencing low back pain, then are we making sure that they're, one, are they balanced? Is the pelvic girdle balanced? But, where are they having their pain? Making sure they're getting massage therapy on tight muscles, and then just correcting, if they do have, a hitch or a limp or, something, are we addressing, any kind of muscle weakness? Because normally if the pelvis is only going to get really unleveled if their stride is going to be off, or if their stride's off. So just addressing that, and then making sure that they're getting, if they're, depending on how many miles they're running per week, are they getting enough treatment to balance out, what they're gonna throw off.
Okay. Now, if I had to ask you, if I was a runner and I had to ask you, number one, do I stretch before? Do I stretch after? Or do I do both?
I would say, I mean, most importantly, everybody should warm up a little bit. I mean, unless that first mile, is just going to be a straight up, warm up mile. But everybody, obviously, you want to activate the glutes, activate the calves, get your feet, most importantly, feet and ankles. Make sure your feet and ankles are stretched out, or at least, range of motion is there. 30 minutes of stretching, I don't think is probably, necessary, but, I would do more than three.
Okay.
3 to 5 minutes of just, some calf raises, some activation techniques. A lot of guys break out the bands really quick, just to kind of activate, some of the lower extremity muscles. And then post running, just, even if you just walked for, a tenth to 2/10 of a mile, stretched out a little bit, just to move some of the lactic acid, keep the muscles warm afterwards. Obviously if we're up in Ohio and it's 40 degrees on, like it was this morning, maybe keep a pair of pants if you run in shorts, just so everything doesn't cool down so quickly. On your longer runs, definitely compression sleeves, if you have access to them, are great for recovery. And then ice is needed, but definitely range of motion of the foot and ankle, hugely important. If you start feeling any pain in your feet or your ankles, get with your physio, your chiropractor to adjust. I don't think a lot of people get their feet and ankles adjusted probably as much as they should.
Yeah. Okay. Actually, interesting you say that. I have a guy that very competitive runner. He's 40 now and just started having some problems with his left foot the other day that I started working on mobilizing. So he initially came in to see me. He had 5 years of hip pain, and he was going to all these different orthos, and they were trying to figure out, is this his labrum? Is it this? Is that? PT wasn't helping. And I started adjusting his pelvis on that left side because we saw an offset, helped significantly. So he's praising me for that, and then now he's having this little issue with his left foot. So we just started mobilizing that. So I couldn't agree with you more there. So you're also an avid golfer as well, correct?
Avid in terms of I like playing. I don't know,
but you don't get the time, just like any of us. We don't get the time.
I don't know how much the handicap, it's reflected in how much I like to hit the ball. But no, I've always enjoyed golfing. Again, proper movements. Just flexibility, and again, tailor your swing to what you're capable of doing. I haven't got to play as much since I have 2 teenage kids and they play lacrosse. So my weekends are, they don't allow me 6-hour rounds now. But now granted, the round only took 3 hours, and then the 19th hole took a little bit of time too. But it's always been, it's always a good sport, and it's a great sport. It's a great activity and sport to play. My kids do play a little bit, so hopefully I'll get to play with them in the upcoming years. Well, until they can't out-hit me yet, but they're going to be there soon.
Yeah. You, as I know, a lot of our patients that come in that are golfers, they always have the question is should I not be playing golf? I look at it from the standpoint of, if a person is a consistent golfer and they have a similar swing every time, they're not, swinging this way, swinging that way. They're not trying to swing out of their shoes. They're not chomping into the ground, like chopping into the rough and all that stuff all the time. I'm good with it. We obviously see a lot of bad backs, but if the person has that consistent kind of smooth swing, and like you said, they tailor themselves what they're able to do, you're not necessarily, obviously the adjustments and the stretching and that type of stuff is huge, but I've seen a lot of people with bad backs play plenty of golf, but I think the consistency of the swing, of how they swing and what they do is the key, in my opinion. I don't know if you have any opinion on that either.
That is a great point. One, is there a repeatable swing, and then how much load are they placing in certain areas of their swing. I used to try to muscle the ball, swing hard, swing speed, generate a lot of, club head speed. And, and I was kind of, generating a lot of muscle, or trying to swing hard. And an excellent pro up here, pointed out one thing, like, muscle versus just kind of, relaxed muscle, ligament, and tendon, and just swinging easy. And I will tell you, I used to go hit a large bucket of balls, and I would be exhausted, after hitting like 140 balls. It was like I just played, well, a round and a half. He just took all the muscle out and relaxed it and just kind of swing easy. The game became much simpler and much less taxing on the body. So, I mean, I would tell most golfers, don't try to hit the ball hard, because the more muscle you put into it, the more tired you're going to get, and then the less repeatable the swing, and the more load that you exert, or you put on the structures. So, if we can keep people swinging easy, then that's easy. It's easier on the body for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Now, again, I'm never going to get paid for playing golf, so I always make sure that the foursome is going to be able to tolerate me, and we're going to have a good time.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's the thing too that people forget about. It's like it's supposed to be fun, and we as chiropractors are here to help people continue to do the activity that is fun. And that's what I always say. I was like, is it your job? Are you making money other than a little side bet or whatever? It's like, just go out there, have a good time. Try not to go crazy, right? Try to keep it consistent. So,
and it always comes down to a putt anyways. It doesn't really matter. None of us are going to win a long drive competition, so, just if you're going to work on your game, go to the, go to the putting green.
Short game. Drive for show. Drive for show, putt for dough.
Exactly.
So I want to move on into another topic that, when I went on your website, I saw quite a few videos of, which is just a huge, huge issue in the world nowadays, is posture. I liked a lot of the videos you were doing on posture, and you were doing some things with backpacks and just different things. But yeah, I want to get into the topic of posture and what we're seeing and what we're trying to do about it. So, talk about some of these videos that you're doing a little bit, and how you're educating people and how you're treating people.
Yeah, your father, being a chiropractor, and yourself being a chiropractor, we've seen 15 years in. I think historically we've seen, posture deteriorates, with aging and over the years. We've all been at the grocery store. We've all seen the elderly, they get more hunched and they get more leaned over. Obviously, I think that the sooner somebody finds chiropractic, the better posture they're going to maintain, probably in their later years. But I think what's most concerning now is, at least the elderly had good posture, because, they worked, they moved, they did jobs that were probably physical or labor intensive. I think what we've turned into for, over the last 15, 20 years is definitely more sedentary lifestyle. And then with the advent of smartphones, screens, computer games, gaming, not only are the younger generations more sedentary, so they're not walking as much, but then this change in posture, especially with the neck position. We were always, if you walk significantly, you're always going to be upright, and your chin and your ears are going to be over your shoulder. This is a huge thing that we look at when we're looking at alignment. What I think we're finding now is that forward head position is moving forward. The ears are moving in front, or, equal with the clavicles, which is going to change, which is not just going to change your neck position, or you're going to become more rounded, but the big thing is it's going to, it's going to change the alignment of your cervical spine. So, as I have, as I told you, as we pull out the visual aid here,
the props.
We're supposed to have, this, nice cervical lordosis with the occiput, being, back over the posterior elements of the cervical spine, and all the weight, from the head is supposed to be posterior on the facet joints. Well, I think one of the things that we've noticed, in X-rays and radiographs, for the last, for the last few years, and definitely moving forward, is instead of having that lordosis, that neck is straightening out, which we've all seen and heard of as military neck. But what that does is it moves all the force of the skull into the anterior portions, which, leads to every, so many negative consequences for people. Degenerative disc disease, degenerative joint disease, thinning discs. Again, most people don't realize this in their 20s or 30s, but we're getting patients in our early 40s that, are needing, fusions and cervical fusions because they have, all types of, neurological pain into both arms. And I think it's only going to get worse because everybody's looking down at their phones all the time. If your head's dropped forward, that's 8 pounds, according to the kid from Jerry Maguire.
Yeah.
That's going to affect and change that curve. So I think that's one of the things that we focus on at the practice here, and certainly everybody should focus on, is where are your shoulders, where's your neck position. Sedentary lifestyle, working at a desk, anterior muscles get way too much work. We roll forward, nobody works out their backs, and so we're unbalanced again. It's similar to a runner who's unbalanced and gets the hip pain, versus somebody who works at a desk and has anterior muscles that are too tight, and they stretch the back and they never work the back muscles.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot more headaches with that stuff too, is another symptom, because the scalene muscles in here, the levator scap muscles, which elevate the shoulders. I always use the analogy of, think of the reins on a horse. You're pulling back the reins to pull that head back to stop that horse, right? Well, the reins on us are the levator scap and the posterior scalene muscles. So when your head is constantly in the down position, guess what those muscles are trying to do the whole time? So then you're stressing these, you're weakening these, you're tightening this, and your body just gets used to it. And then like you said, all these crazy symptoms start to occur, and people wonder, why do I have headaches all the time? And even these kids, like these 12, 13, 14-year-olds, you're starting, like if you have a 13-year-old, I have a 13-year-old, when you see their friends, you're starting to already see that forward head carriage a little bit happening, because they're always down. These kids have grown up with these devices, right? And then when they're 16, 17, 18, that's when those symptoms really start to kick in. When they used to, in our age, group, they did not kick in until probably in our 30s. You know what I mean? So it's just because that activity was so much different.
Yeah, I got my first, I got my first smartphone when I was 33. Mm-hmm. Which I swore to myself none of my kids were going to get before they were 33, but yet they're 16 and 13 and have smartphones. And it's their lives. Yeah. It's, yes, it's very concerning, because especially with the headaches, yeah, and again, students, student syndrome, they're studying, they're always, but at least we had books that we had to open up. Everything, my kids do everything on a Chromebook, and I don't think it's probably, I might as well not complain about it because it's not going to change, but they're so used to the screens that it's going to be a tough thing to break. I mean, obviously I try to get them, I'm trying to tell them to, pick their phone up and keep their head up and things like that. But it's definitely a thing. They adjust, so much louder. I mean, they're like the movement that they need. I mean, you can feel like, they're losing that, they're increasing that thoracic kyphosis and like you said, muscle imbalance. I would tell most, I probably have more 25 to 35-year-olds who need massage therapy or manual therapy on their anterior neck muscles than most of my 60-year-olds.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah, most of the 60-year-olds in the practice.
Yeah, absolutely. That it's like you said, they adjust when we adjust them, the movement you get in these teenagers and even 20-year-olds. I mean, it's great. It's loud, but then as they get older, things don't move as well. It's much more difficult to get that motion in there. So, the parents will be in there with, you'll adjust the parents and then you'll adjust the kid and they're like, "Whoa." The parents are like, "Oh my gosh." Like it's like, well, the mobility is there. It just is so restricted. Then we release that pressure. It just sounds a lot different than in a person that's 40 or 50 years old.
I know. There's a lot of jealousy. There's a lot
of
jealousy.
There is.
Parents and kids.
Yeah, it's funny how that works. So what about the backpacks? What do you typically recommend with the backpacks, like just some basics?
Yeah, I would say probably about, a sixth to an eighth, a backpack should only be maybe 10 to 15% of the child's weight.
But it's not, it's about 20%. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't really go over that, especially, once they get to high school, they can probably handle a little bit more of a load, but especially the elementary school kids. But, just make sure that just making sure that the straps are, appropriate for the child, making sure that everything's tightened up, that the back, that the backpack is, snug to the back, and they can carry it. Not, they shouldn't be leaning back and putting a lot of pressure on the lower back right there. They shouldn't have to lean forward to balance it out. It's probably the biggest things, not, and then, obviously not overstuffing the bag, which is really tough to get like a lot of moms to understand, because if they're carrying around these big purses that are like 30, 40 pounds, they think they got to carry their entire life with them. Mm-hmm. So maybe a little bit less is more in that regard. But, just making sure that we don't, we're not putting too much stress on a, obviously maturing younger body, that isn't fully formed yet. Obviously that they're growing.
And to the parents out there, like any of the parents that are arguing, or the kids are arguing with them, I mean, it's just the kids don't understand. Like, they're not going to feel the pain like we know what can happen when you're in your 30s or your 40s or 50s or wherever. But the growth plates being open, you're compressing those, you're teaching your body. Your body is a sponge at that age, so it's going to adapt to what you're putting it through. So parents out there, yes, 2 straps is better than 1. Try to monitor what they're carrying in there. Just do your best. I mean, my kids are 16 and 13, and I always tell them, I'm like, people come to seek advice from me for this stuff, and you're getting it just for free every day. And I'm telling you, and you don't want to listen to me. So I'm sure you probably get the same thing, but parents need to be very aware of that stuff and just try to do your best with it. It's challenging when you have kids. You can't always tell them what to do.
Yeah, I agree, Doc. And, just to follow up on that point is, when you're talking about, especially teenagers who are going to go through a growth spurt. So you're talking about the growth plate. You're talking about, if you get muscle imbalance, look, I'm not going to say that I know exactly what causes scoliosis, other than the fact that I know that it's a muscle imbalance, mm-hmm. right? I mean, bones don't move themselves. We got a pulley system that muscles are, acting on, on structures. So if these kids get, as they go through these amazing growth spurts of like 3, 4, 5 inches in 6 months, 5, 6, 7 months, if they're out of balance, then that could be one of the biggest causes of scoliosis. And we definitely see this in females, especially between the ages of 11 and 14. So it's really imperative to focus on, what are they carrying? How much are they carrying? Are they having a growth spurt? And then be wary of asymmetries in these kids. So if there is a scoliosis, that we can grab it pretty easily. We've had probably 2 or 3 scoliosis cases in the practice in the last half year, and the rapidity, or the how quickly that spine can get moved or twisted is rather quick. I mean, it happened to a good friend of ours, and now she had to be in a brace for 18 months.
Yeah.
For almost 23 hours a day. So, I'm going to tell my kid to make sure that he 2 straps it and has the proper weight on his back, than to have to wear a brace for 23 hours a day for 18 months, because that's not a fun situation to go through either.
Yeah, and parents don't realize when they come to a chiropractor, I mean, how important chiropractic and physical therapy and massage therapy is in these young kids. The more you do it, the better. I mean, it can have an effect, but if you're just like, we'll just bring them in once a month or what. No, that's not enough, because like you said, it goes right back, or it even gets worse based on the habits that they're in, every day. So it's just so important that you try to stay on top of it. Trust the doctor, trust in the process, and, do your best you can for your kid, just like as if it were you, trying to take care of yourself.
Yeah, I agree. And, because that pediatric appointment might be 3 months away, and that's too long.
That is
it's
too
too
long.
long to wait for that annual. And, look, as chiropractors, we are, we're trained differently than medical doctors. Medical doctors are generally trained in pathology, and I understand it. I have family members who, my father was a DO, my brother's an MD. So I certainly, respect their training and stuff like that. But as chiropractors, we are trained as physiologists. We're trained in function. We want all of our patients and everybody to basically function at their highest possible level. And, and we're going to do that by the function of how their body's working, and not by, what they may be taking or whatnot. So I think it's always important to keep in mind how well somebody's moving. If you're not moving great, then, seek out a chiropractor, seek out treatment. If your muscles are sore, physical therapy, manual therapy, massage therapy in combination, I think that we can always get you working a little bit,
It all complements one another. And of course, this show, Let's Talk Health, is, I've got the MDs on here, I've got the chiropractors on here, I'll have physical therapists on here. I mean, we all need to work together. We all need to understand what it is that we do and we specialize in, and we can't be afraid of utilizing one another and communicating with one another. So, but great points today. I mean, very informative. We appreciate you being on. We appreciate what it is that you do and the education that you gave to everybody today. Dr. Chad Vogelgesang. Chad, give me your email address so everybody knows kind of if they want to see some of these videos, what website can they go to?
Yeah, it's Vogelgesang.
Or not, I'm sorry, your website address, not your email address, website address. Go ahead.
Vogelgesang Health at, I don't,
yeah, your website. What's your, how do people access your website?
Well, actually, Stephen has that. I mean, we have a landing page.
Oh, okay,
but
okay.
There's a Facebook page for Vogelgesang Wellness.
Vogelgesang Wellness.
And then, Vogelgesang Wellness at Facebook.
Okay, there you go. That's kind of what I wanted to know. I just wanted people to be able to access your contact information.
Yeah.
How do you spell your last name, Vogelgesang?
It is V as in Victor, Ogelgesang, and we're located in Stark County, Ohio.
All right.
So, Canton, Ohio.
Well, Chad, I appreciate it. Appreciate you and what you do, man. Continue on. Continue doing what you do. So we appreciate having you on Let's Talk Health. Once again, this was Dr. Chad Vogelgesang, chiropractor in Ohio, very passionate about what he does, very knowledgeable. And that's what we're trying to bring to you as our audience, to educate and, just tie everything together so that people understand what it is that they need to do and taking care of theirself. So until next week, we will see you next time.